What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bilbrons and Dragons. I'm your host, Bilbron DaoLockStone. So today we're having another battle report for my Molebron DaoLockStone build, which I've been playing on a Westmarch server called the Forged Concordance, and I've been having a hell of a fun time there, so highly recommended. All of the relevant information will be in the video description below, and you can join up and we can adventure together. I should also apologize for the fact that I'm doing this outdoors. They're doing massive construction in my apartment over the last couple of weeks, so I haven't been able to do any production there. But I decided to just try and shoot this outdoors today because I really wanted to talk about this session. It was so fun. It was called Spring Cleaning, and it was run by DM Zammot, who did a fantastic job. I've actually played at Zammot's table once before in the Clockwork Lair, which was just a few sessions ago, so check that out. And so I knew he was really good. But I definitely want to thank him for providing me this really awesome experience, because this battle was hella awesome. And I should describe the setup, because, man, going in, as Zammot put it, it was SEAL Team 6 versus the Suicide Squad, and I was on the Suicide Squad. Because what happened was that this was a pop-up game, and we only had like a couple hours to put teams together, and by the time I noticed it, there was only an hour to go before he was picking teams, and there was only one team up for it, and it had an open slot on it. So I was on good terms with the list maker, and I said, hey, put me on the team. And he was like, I can't. There's only one punch down allowed, because I'm a silver at 9th level, and this was a copper mission for level 7 and 8. And he already had a punch down, so he couldn't add me. I was like, oh man, that sucks, because I would now have to create my own team, and it was a 6-man team, and I needed 5 other people, and I'd have like less than an hour to do it. But I hadn't had a game in like 2 weeks, so I was desperate, and I thought, all right, fine, I'll just put a team together and see what happens. And I couldn't get any other coppers. I guess with the short notice, people just weren't online, or they had to work, or they were in cooldown or in other games, and I literally couldn't get a single other copper. And with time ticking down, I was like, all right, I guess I could get some steals, because I could have them punch up into a copper mission. And I thought, all right, why not? I had no idea at the time that Zammot is like the 7th most deadly DM on the server with like a 20% kill rate. And I figured, okay, I could carry this team if I need to, right? I mean, I'm pretty dominant in most of my combats and have been rarely hard pressed. And so, yeah, I decided to add a bunch of steals to my team, and then we got the game, and everybody was very excited. By everybody, I mean people on the server and DMs, because they could see blood in the water and an oncoming carnage here, where I'm taking this totally underpowered team. So looking at SEAL Team 6, they had 46 total levels, we had 35 total levels, and they were well constructed. They had a couple of strong tanks for front line, they had good strong ranged DPR support, they had good strong caster support, and I had a bunch of baby steals, like just level 5s even, and I had no idea what they could do, because usually people put their class and stuff in the name, but these guys were calling themselves like, Nature's Shadow and the Hunter. I don't know what those mean, but all right, whatever, you're on the team. And we got the game, and everybody was really excited to see some carnage. It was, not the best setup going in, but that's the sort of setup that can have you, that can result in an epic win if you can pull through. So in terms of the play-by-play, Bilbron started as he always does by riding down from Viscala, stopping in at Haroon to check in with Novus Dayshout and get caught up on the goings-on in Mydath, and then on to the Forged Concordance headquarters, rolling up to the job board looking for a gig. And I explained how it went down in real life. I role-played it very similarly, and it with like a minute to spare, so I assembled a team comprised of Sin, who was a half-drow soul knife with a level of bard in there. Then there was Dendarian, who was a Shadar Kai spirits bard. We had Dean D. Donovan, who was a human gloomstalker crossbow expert. We had Umanbu, who was a human battle master with a level of barbarian in there, also a crossbow expert and a net specialist, which really came in clutch. And Xerxes, who was a winged tiefling that was a shadow monk druid, shadow monk with a level druid. And so that was the team. And I literally had no idea how people fought, but it was a last-minute thing, and I was confident that we could get through it. And so, yeah, we headed out bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to Blackburn, where we were to meet the client, the Lord Inquisitor Gesmi Kisneros of the Church of the Emperor's Son. And we made contact when we got there, and apparently that there was this giant corpse of some kind of titan, this monstrous creature that had been excavated and occupied by a being called the Collector, who had encountered some of the church's men and killed them, and so the church wanted him dead. And had very little intel because nobody had come back alive, but they wanted us to kill the Collector, his assistant Jerry, everything and everyone in that complex, that giant worm, and to bring back a few vials of this purple liquid that could be found there. And he didn't have any other intel, and Bilbron knew he didn't because he's acquired a helm of telepathy since the last adventure and was reading his mind the whole time. And, he was more or less on the up and up, although he was very racist, and he hated all non-humans, and he literally hoped that we would die, and he expected all of us to die, didn't think that we would survive. So that was a little bit concerning, but ultimately it's not Bilbron's job to judge the clients. As long as they pay on time, that's what counts. So we headed off, and after another day's travel or so, we approached the corpse of this titan. And Bilbron got very concerned when we got there, because I'm the silver that's supposed to be carrying this team, and right away I could tell this was like the worst environment for me, because most of my dominance comes from controlling the range, and there's no range to be had. If you're crawling through the intestines of some creature, you can't fly up in the air to get space. There's no stone in there, so I couldn't cast Wall of Stone. I couldn't cast Stone Shape. And so right away, just going in, I was going to be at like 50 or 60% capacity, along with my team of baby steels. So yeah, I started to feel a little bit worried at that point, but it's a little too late for the recriminations, so off we went into this gaping maw of this creature, which was the only entrance. And it was gross as hell in there, because the walls and the ceilings and the floor were all basically, pulsating flesh, all slick and gross, with like teeth popping up every now and then, and all of these throbbing veins in there, and it just smelled vile and disgusting. And we entered. It was dark, no light sources or anything. And pretty much right away we encountered the Collector. We just had to go through like a little bit of intestine or whatever. And then there was like a room of sorts where the Collector and Jerry were there, basically charging admission. Now they turned out there were a couple of aberrations, it looked like. Jerry looked like a giant squid. And the Collector looked like a giant squid, and Jerry was this thing with no face and fangs for a mouth, and he had this giant hammer in his hand. I found out later they were called a Mordath and a Tomb Tapper, but some kind of aberrations that Bilbron had never fought before. And we tried talking first, but he was demanding magic items from everybody to let us in, and we're not having that. So combat ensued, and then I had this huge sinking feeling, because nobody charged forward. Literally everybody went to the back, and we're like literally crowding each other and tripping over each other's feet. I had to fly over them to actually get in position to cast a spell, because it seems that I had assembled a team of baby steels with no front line and hardly any healing, and I brought them into an environment where I myself was at like 50 or 60% capacity. Yeesh. And then things got just worse from there, because the Collector opened up with a frickin' chain lightning. A chain lightning against like 5th level characters that have like, 40-ish hit points, 45-ish hit points. So injured a lot of the team, immediately killed Fargar, my imp familiar. And that got very bad very quickly. And so Bilbron immediately had to go in the first battle to his panic button of Summon Greater Demon. And so for the very first time, I cast it and I put a Chasme into the field. And in this case, it actually worked that there was no front line, because the Chasme has this giant drone effect, and I usually can't throw it out there without friendly fire. But in this case, it was fine, and the Chasme did so good. It basically ended the combat immediately. Its drone effect put the Collector unconscious, and it didn't make the Tomb Tapper unconscious, but the other guys were filling it full of arrows, and then it decided to eat an opportunity attack from my Chasme to try and get into better position to kill a party. And then this happened, and the Chasme dropped a 55-point hit on it and killed it. And so the very first battle, which, remember, they get progressively harder, I had to go to my panic button. And people started freaking out. It was basically this scene from Aliens.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? We're some real pretty shit now, man. You finished?
And yeah, Xerxes wanted to go, and Dean wanted to go. But I was like, come on, we're not going to retreat after the first battle. Nobody even went down. We won. But we can do this. And so, yeah, everybody calmed down, and we managed to push ahead. And we encountered a couple more aberrations in another room. One had like blades for hands and was really ugly, but the other one was like a million times uglier, just the most gross, disgusting, fetid, rotten fetus that you could imagine. And the fetus thing screamed, and it had like a super high save DC, and then it imposed exhaustion on half the team. I later found out it was called an atropal, and then the thing with blades for hands was called the Lost. And yeah, at this point, Xerxes had a complete mental breakdown. Now, this is how I'm narratively storytelling it. In real life, I think he had a snake get into his house that bit his cat, and he had to take it to the vet. And then plus he really offended the DM and pissed him off. And so he had to leave. And so this played out in the game where he basically had a mental breakdown and started, fell down and started crying, and the DM was really mad at him, so was focusing the attacks of the Atropal and the Lost on him, and we were barely able to keep him alive with like good berries and stuff. But the rest of us kept our composure and were pouring on the offense because we had a couple of sharpshooters in the party, and the Soul Knife was doing great damage with a sneak attack, and Bilbron does good damage, so we were able to efficiently win that battle. It was a very tough battle though, against this Atropal and the Lost thing. And so in the aftermath of that, we had this scene again.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
And Xerxes abandoned the party. I mean, remember, in real life he had to leave, and so we were down a man. So not only were we underpowered with 35 total levels at the beginning, we just lost 5 levels. So now it was 30 total levels trying to get through this incredibly dangerous mission. And yeah, Xerxes left. I could barely talk Dean into staying. And so we decided to forge on after a short rest. And it turns out we skipped like a room or whatever. And so this third encounter was supposed to be like the final encounter. And it was very difficult because there was this like corridor that we had to go through. And at the other end of it, there was this creature that looked like a horse with stars for face just running in circles. And I actually recognized this from a previous battle that I'd had in Nevermore, and I knew that it had an anti-magic cone. And Sin had fought one of these before as well, so he confirmed that it had an anti-magic cone. And then there was this like long tunnel that we would have to go through just to get into that room, which was perfect for its anti-magic cone. So that was a very tough setup that really took a lot of teeth out of Bilbron in particular, because my summons can't get through the anti-magic area, and I can't cast any spells in there. But it was the only one that we saw, so we decided to go try and kill it anyway. Umanbu ran up to it and got it in its net, and so that was the plan, is that we were going to immobilize it and then just kill it with ranged weapons. But once we launched, this immense worm came out of the ground. Like, I'd never seen such a big worm. I mean, I'll show you pictures, and I hope you can see on the map how big it was. It was like 6 by 6, but just humongous. And it breathed acid down the corridor at the party. And so panic ensued, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try and take some pressure off the team. And I teleported into that room. It was a big room, and I was able to get all the way in the back of it because I had gotten eyes on it before, and I knew where I wanted to go. And this was an area that had a little bit of cover, not much cover, but a little bit. And I thought, all right, I can take some pressure off the team, and either it's going to hang up in the front and continue to attack the team, and then I can start pouring on damage with Obsidian Spears and my summons, or it will come after me and get away from the front entrance, and so the team could rush in there and attack it while I'm occupying it. And it went down the second way. It came right after Bilbron with a Feeble Mind. What? Feeble Mind? Oh my god, I have an 8 intelligence. And a Feeble Mind is a teensy bit debilitating if you don't make the save. So thank God I made that save. I used Inspiration and thankfully got a 20 on the second roll. So I didn't get Feeble-Minded, but I did take enough damage to lose my concentration on my summon, even though I have Eldritch Mind and only a 9% chance of losing concentration. But I lost my summon, and then there was nothing to prevent the Wyrm from closing in with me, and I was barely able to occupy it for a few rounds. But yeah, I got eaten and swallowed, which was not comfortable. But, the rest of the team came through and took up combat positions and started shredding it down. Sin landed a fairy fire on it, and that allowed the sharpshooters to blast it down with power attacks. And they did great damage and shredded it. I didn't contribute much damage in that battle. My contribution was getting eaten and taking some of the attention away from the rest of the team, who, thank goodness, blasted it down. And, we were able to win that battle. Very, very close. We took one more short rest. Dean again wanted to go, but the rest of us were like, oh, come on, we've almost cleared this place out. There's just got to be one more room. And so we decided, yeah, why not? Let's keep going and try and finish this job. And so we found one final room, and there were 2 more aberrations in there. And one looked like a giant mosquito thing that was buzz, 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 buzz all the time. Didn't have like a face, just like these holes for a face. And then I think that was called a core spawn emissary. And then there was this giant man spider thing. I say giant, but it's just like, medium sized. But it was like a half man, half spider. It had crystals for a face. I found out later it's called a core spawn seer. And man, this battle was tough. Now, first, right away, we kind of split up. And so I couldn't really see what was happening on the other side of the room. But over there, Dean had engaged the mosquito-looking thing and got killed pretty quickly. And it was like an insta-kill, because this thing had like 3 attacks. And so it killed him on like the first attack, and then boom, boom, 2 criticals, and he was dead. He did a bunch of damage to it first, though. And then Sin and Darian made their way over there. And again, I couldn't see anything. I knew they were doing damage to it, but it sounded like they were taking a bunch of damage too. So more or less, it sounded like my party was getting killed over there. And then on our side, it was me and Umanbu against this correspond seer dude. And he immediately, he's very smart apparently, sussed out Bilbron as the most, the dangerous threat, and was focusing his attacks on me. And he had these crazy psychic orbs that was like DC 19 wisdom save to avoid them, and they did crazy damage, and they would like stun you. I spent 1 round stunned and lost concentration on my summon. And I was basically going to die. I got down to like 20 hit points, and this thing was doing like 5d10 psychic damage. But thankfully, Umanbu managed to net it. Umanbu was being a star with this net thing the whole time. He had like 40 nets, and he was able to get a net on the correspond seer, and apparently it doesn't have any slashing damage. So it couldn't get out of the net, and that allowed Bilbron to get enough space where he could throw down a minor illusion, and it was outside of this thing's blind sight range, and it couldn't see me. And so it couldn't throw those psychic orbs at me, because that's generally how it works in this game. If there's a saving throw involved, you generally need sight. And so Umanbu basically saved me there, and I was able to get the distance I needed to not die, and then I could get my offense running smoothly. And then I ended up smashing the core spawn seer. Umanbu had gone down because when I was off the table as a target, the correspond seer started hitting Umanbu. Tried to hit my summon, but I was using a summon aberrant, which is psychic immunity. So that came in clutch. I managed to kill that thing, and then I sent my summons running way the hell over to the other side of the room to kill the mosquito thing, which it was still killing the other guys, but they'd done a ton of damage to it, and Fargar only needed to hit it like twice with his tentacle rod to kill it. And that was it. And at the end of it, Bilbron was literally the last man standing. Dean was dead, and all 3 of the others were unconscious. They had gone down, but had stabilized. So, whew, by the skin of our teeth, we managed to survive that one. Horribly configured team, underpowered, in an environment where Bilbron's not all that effective. I was so happy to survive. And then we managed to bring Dean back, and so everybody was happy to have survived. No losses, and just a hell of a good time. One of my favorite sessions so far. So I want to thank DM Zammot for providing me that experience. I want to thank the team for helping me get through it. I want to congratulate the team for getting through it, pat them on the back. That was a hell of an accomplishment. What we did there at a dangerous table with a dangerous DM, with an underpowered, badly configured team, that's something that we can be proud of. I know I'm proud of having gone through that and prevailing and getting the win conditions. I think everyone else should be too. And thank you so much for watching. This has been Bilbrons and Dragons. I'm your host, Bilbron DaoLockStone. See you next time.